this hands down the best. The reason we're really looking for this variance, we've learned it's been since 2011. Just even with this last little hurricane scare we had, we have a 125 tank that we exchange right now. We ran out of them in a couple of hours. For the next 2 weeks, gas was unavailable. We've turned away probably 100, 200, 300 people for filling gas. So we feel that this would be a great service to the community. We are 100% customer service driven. We're all about the community. We strive to do the best we can. I think most of you have been in the stores before. You know what we're all about, how we serve. We just think it would be good for the city and, it'd be good for us, but also good for the community. So we would ask that you'd accept this variance for us.
Thank you.
So everyone knows today that there are currently tanks being exchanged there. So it's the same exact use, except now, as Frank mentioned, we're able to serve a lot more clients to be able to never run out. Well, I say never, probably never run out, and to be able to fill during times when they don't have any utilities and the likes. And this can continue to serve as a great service to the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, I just wanted to point out, because this is a variance, in order to approve the variance, you will need a 4/5 affirmative vote of the city commission.
Thank you. Commissioner Hudak?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've been to this store numerous times. I live 1,000 yards from this house, from this store. So every project I'm there at least 3 times, because the first 2 times I didn't get what I needed. But yes, customer service is definitely at the forefront of this business. There are only 2 hardware stores in the entire city of Deerfield Beach. And as you know, when we do have a hurricane, a lot of people run out of propane. We use it to cook. My generator uses propane in order to run it. So I understand the importance. And like I said, the current use of only 125 cans, well, that can be done in less than a day in times of need. They have gone through all of the hoops required. I know this has been approved by it was the compliance board. So this is something I fully support, and I hope I have yours as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Preston?
Thank you, Mayor. What's impressive to me is that you took the time to consult the adjacent residents, to get their opinion, to get their feelings. You didn't know what they would say, whether they would be amenable to this or whether they would reject it. And if they did reject it, how would you then deal with it? But with them being in close proximity, they embraced it. They embraced it because it's a good idea. I too will be supporting this, because in times of crisis, and I remember years ago when we had such a hurricane, we was out of electricity for a month. It was just, and LP gas is important at that time for people just to survive. So it's a good thing that we will have, it's possible that we could have this as a part of our city, so that the residents will have a resource to go to. So I think this is good. I think this is going to help not just one area, but the city of Deerfield Beach. This is a good thing. So I like the idea that you did talk to the residents, and that is what you should have done. And the response that you got was favorable. They're a lot closer to it than I am. If they see the benefit, I think it's worth it to all of us to look in that way as well.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. I'm going to ask anyone from the public to speak now, if it's all right. Did you press the button? No. It's okay.
Dan Hirsch, 330 Southeast 19th Avenue. I love this Ace Hardware. I try to go there all the time, even though I'm a Home Depot stockholder. And I will be coming to see you tomorrow morning because my key font battery is going dead. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public care to comment on this item? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Linda Fitzpatrick, and I'm an owner at the Bellamar Condominium Association. I've had a relationship with Bellamar for 46 years because my parents were original owners there. So I've seen that building be a Mayhew's liquor store. I've seen it be the Blockbuster. I've seen it be unoccupied, and I've seen it be Ace Hardware. We were happy when Ace Hardware was coming because nobody likes to see an empty building, and small businesses are the backbone of a community. The relationship that Bellamar has had with Ace Hardware has been contentious at times, and it has been very good at times. And I hope that the board would at least listen to what I have to say. When they first came, people were happy. And then the next thing we knew is they were trying to install the propane tank and the chlorine tank. And we were against that because people live there. And if you can close your eyes and think about your home and think about having a propane tank and a chlorine tank within what, 100 feet of some of the units, I hope you can understand that people were not happy about it. So, and you, Mr. President, at the time, I was very grateful to you that you stuck up for the owners because you realized that they were apprehensive about having these tanks that close to their community. So we were happy when that didn't pass. So all these years went by, and Ace Hardware has been there. And yes, when you go on the store, they are quite helpful, and we're appreciative of that fact. But also because they were denied the tanks, I believe that they did something very spiteful. And that was, there used to be an egress out of the Ace Hardware parking lot that ran behind the strip mall there where the Goodwill is. I don't know if you're all familiar with that. So that the residents of Bellamar could use that to go to the traffic light by Regions Bank so they wouldn't have to shoot across 3 lanes of highway to make a U-turn to head north. Well, when Ace Hardware was turned down for the tanks, that was when Frank decided to close off that egress, which was a hardship for a lot of the elderly people that live there that now have to shoot across those 3 lanes of Federal Highway to head north. And what's so upsetting to me is after he did that,
One more minute to complete
Okay.
your thought.
after he did that, now, lo and behold, when he wants the propane tank, all of a sudden, he's going to open this egress again. And this was after we've had to live with them plopping down 2 ugly storage units behind the store itself. And it's just, I believe it's going to lower property values. When people come to Bellamar now, not only are we going to have to look at their waste receptacle, but we have to live with that. But now we're going to have to look at a propane tank as well. And he fills tanks all the time. And I appreciate the fact that there is a hurricane. It's helpful to have a tank. But we pray that we're not going to have hurricanes. And I hope the commissioners realize that the people who live in that community have to look at that every single time they come home. And they have to live with the fear that there could be an
Thank you, Ms.
explosion.
Fitzgerald. I
Thank you
appreciate
very
it.
much.
Ms. Fitzgerald, before you walk away, can I ask you a question? Ms. Fitzgerald, can I ask you a question? Are you related to Kathleen?
No.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else from the public? Anyone online? No, this gentleman?
Randolph Adrian, an owner at Bellamar since 79,
Can you give your address, please?
367 South Federal.
Thank you.
Okay, my quick question is, Ace mentioned that they went through 125 tanks in 1 or 2 days. So you fill 20, 20-pound tanks? No one has said how big the tank is that they want installed there. Okay? So how many days, if there's a hurricane, is that tank gonna last? Based on 125 fills a day. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Okay, I'm gonna close it to the public. Yes, sir. You need to answer that gentleman's question?
Yeah, I would like to. Number one, the fire requirement and that road is being opened. It was closed for other reasons beside Frank just choosing so. But as you saw on the plan, the tapering of the parking spaces is now permanently going to open. It was a safety hazard back there with cars backing up and cars trying to leave. Now, with the restriping of the parcel, it is now 100% going to be open and safe. With regards to the size of the tank and the number of turns that the tank will have, so we have the people here from Suburban,
Take it
if you'd like, or Frank County.
Yeah, it's a 1,000-gallon tank, so they only can fill it 90%, so it'll hold 900 gallons. Most tanks come in, they're not totally empty, so it's gonna fill somewhere around 200, 250 tanks, but instead of getting a delivery from the little tanks, they can bring a fill tank in, and in a few minutes, they fill the tank and we're back in business. So it's one fill instead of trying to get these companies to fill 100 little tanks and bring them to us. It's just much more readily available.
And especially during hurricanes, getting the tanks here is really one of the biggest concerns. And that's why we wanted to have this installed. With regard to what you said, as I addressed in the very early part of my presentation, I think the majority of the concerns wasn't so much the propane tank, but it was the chlorine and the risk of the chlorine and the smell of the chlorine and the likes. And as I said, we had 19 people there, and many of those people were very much in favor for it. And we have all their names. So thank you. If there's anything else you'd like me to answer, I will.
Thank you. Commissioner Parnas, do you have a question?
Yeah, why is this against code? If
I think that's probably better for staff to answer that than you, sir.
Hi, Eric Power, Director of Plan Development Services. We have a code section that does not allow outdoor sales. So we don't permit outdoor sales anywhere in this district. And unfortunately, because of propane, you can't bring it inside. So they don't have a situation where you can have an indoor propane tank.
so having it outdoor is against code.
No, having a dispenser, having a sale outside would be against the code. Right?
Thank you.
Okay,
You know,
thank you.
my thing is this,
Stick around.
let me ask my question. You get a delivery of 200 tanks at a clip? Well, if I knew a hurricane was coming next week, I'd order 500 tanks. Let me finish my point. The fact that you could fill empty tanks is just making it maybe easier for you. But if you had a bigger delivery, it wouldn't change the public's ability to get tanks. That's one. Two, I find propane a dangerous explosion possibility. I have seen people store them behind staircases where I live and other places. And it's the fire department comes and wreaks havoc on these people. So if it's against the law right now, code, to fill these tanks, I can't approve that. Why would I? You haven't given me a reason that it's safer than getting a delivery. It may be better for you, but how is it better for the community?
Okay. Can I address some of your concerns? Number one, the storage of tanks. We cannot store more tanks. They have to be approved. You have to have cages, barricades, so we can't order extra tanks to have them storing for a hurricane. for safety reasons. So we have a cage that's approved, barricades, and we're only allowed to serve so many tanks. So I can't order extra tanks. As far as the explosions, the the muffler store next to us uses acetylene gas, which is way more explosive than propane gas. So it's, the explosion for propane is very minimal. It's safe. It's been approved. All the
There's
municipalities.
also a propane tank in the condominium right across the street that they currently have on their property. This is being installed by all the federal guidelines. It's being monitored and permitted by all the federal guidelines. So those guidelines are what we're following to install this tank. It will have the highest safety standards available because it's all new. So that really shouldn't be a concern, but I do understand what you're saying on small tanks. The
And
situation about one other section about the code, okay? Currently today, there is outdoor sales occurring, but it's not being filled. So you can't put a storage tank inside. Okay, so we've gone through a year making sure that we've complied with all the requirements and the likes. There's a phenomenal need for this, and I think we've worked hard to accomplish this.
the filling of the tank is not prohibited. It's the outside sales that the city has. So you're allowed to dispense propane outside. It's a outside sales. So it's not out of code to fill the tanks. It's a sale, correct? Correct.
Just a question then.
Yes, sir.
So customers are going to pull up, you're going to say they want a propane tank.
Yes.
You're going to take the money outside or inside?
No, we would take the money inside.
Okay.
So right now, it's basically the same as we do now. A customer will bring their tank, they leave it outside, they go in and store and pay for it. We take the tank and we exchange it. So right now, we'll just, instead of exchanging it, we'll take it around back and fill it and then bring it back to them.
Okay. And all that occurs indoors.
That's correct.
The transfer of money is indoors. Yeah, the customer, they leave the tanks outside because they're not allowed to bring the tanks inside.
Right.
So that'll all happen.
Okay.
So the delivery and everything else is identical, except it's really just the filling is the difference, being filled off-site and being carted in to now being able to be filled on-site and the sale still being inside where
Okay.
the money's transferred and the likes.
Okay. You have a gentleman behind you that might be an expert on
He's-
this subject.
This is our Suburban Propane.
Just need your name and address.
Yes, hi, good evening. Brad Lewis, General Manager, Suburban for Broward and Palm Beach. I live in Dania Beach. My office is in Margate at 1900 Banks Road. I just wanted to come up, among anything, is to speak to you, sir, and in your legitimate concerns about the nature of propane. I can tell you that, and I conferred with the state on this because I figured that it would probably come up. There are well over 200 dispenser stations in the state of Florida. And it's been at least 10 years since there's been a reportable incident to the state of any kind of accident, spill, explosion, or fire. So with the precautions and the codes that we take for federal, state, and local regulations, dispensing propane is actually an incredibly safe process when followed properly. And because of that, that's why we as Suburban Propane, we are the third largest in the United States. And we're out throughout the state of Florida. We have an impeccable safety record. And we are responsible for the training of the employees of all of our dispenser customers. So we stand by our safety first. And, so if you have any other questions regarding the safety or properties of propane or the tanks, I'd be more than happy to answer them for you.
Thank you. Commissioner Hudak, before we go, Mr. Powers, can I ask you a few questions? Commissioner Preston and I were both on the board back when this was denied originally. And some of the discussions then with fire back in 2011 were that this did technically meet, from a safety standpoint, fire's concerns. Is that correct?
From the original 2012.
That was a 2011.
11, yeah, 11, yeah. Yes, it did. Yes,
And is that still the case now?
it is. These are two different site plans. I will tell you, and I do recognize that both of you were on the dais that time, but these are really two different site plans. The 2011 site plan did have two different uses that were outside, one being the chlorine, sodium hydrochloride tanks, as well as this. There was a larger reduction of parking. And there was a difference in the buffer, so they're creating a landscape buffer in this situation. They are not under their required parking count. And again, they are meeting the requirements of the state and federal.
So with the variance, you have to prove a hardship, correct?
Part of a variance is a hardship. There are multiple categories to a variance request. One of those categories is that no other entity in the city, would reasonably benefit from such a variance. Being the only hardware store in the city that would dispense propane, it's really no other entity in the city would have such a request. Home Depot is not going to be doing this. It's not their model to have this type of dispensary. They would rather have the exchange.
How was the gas station on the corner of Power Line Road in 10th on the southwest corner able to operate with an outside tank and do sales?
They do exchange, right?
Used to.
I'm not familiar then with that, but exchange is a little different. That
Right,
you bring a tank,
That's
bring a
currently
tank.
what.
Right.
I used-
In our code, when we talk about outdoor sales, even if it's under the canopy of the entrance, that's considered inside. So, there's a canopy for the entrance and that's where it is. That's considered as an inside use. We can't have things out in the middle. As a quick example, we don't have like an ice dispensary machine in the city. We don't have like a standalone bank teller machine. Those would be considered like outdoor uses, right? So as far as you're inside the considered property, the threshold of the property is inside sale.
Okay. So the key point in this is not from a safety issue. And then I imagine that's why why staff is recommending approval of this.
Right. So the intention, the way that the code reads for outdoor sale, I don't believe would ever have considered, propane dispensing as part of this. We're talking about sales that truly occur outside. As another example, we have temporary approval for things like Christmas tree sales and pumpkins and fireworks, right? Where those are temporary approvals of outdoor sales and not permanent, sales. So we don't allow sales to occur outside of a building.
Okay. So, but safety aspect of it doesn't come into play on this then.
Well, we've ensured that they've met all the requirements for state and federal.
Right. Okay. Last time this came before us back in 2011, we had over 60 people sign up to say that they were not approving this. There are 90 units at the Bellamar condominium that's over there. And the majority of the people were against it. And yes, it was a different site plan. It was chlorine and it was propane. So I understand there is the level of safety is a little bit different. Chlorine, I think, is probably one. I grew up in Cooper City, went to Cooper City High School when the Midas station at the corner of University blew up, and we were miles away, and it took out all our ceiling panels in our school. When that thing exploded, we all felt it miles away. So I am very concerned about the safety issue that's there. And while I think I have no doubt that it'll be properly installed and follow all the guidelines that'll happen, I do know that there's a need, without a doubt. Ace Hardware is very popular over there. You guys do a phenomenal job. And I think there is a need during storms, certainly, to be able to have the ability to do that. I am extremely sensitive to the safety concern, though. The difference on this compared to other locations in which it might be acceptable is the close proximity to the Bellamar. And that is my biggest concern that I have. I don't see my vote changing from what it was back in 2011, though I am open-minded to maybe be convinced to prove me wrong. I'll let you try to do that, Commissioner.
I'll do my best. First of all, there is a city need. Bellamar also has propane tanks on their property as well. And there are numerous individual propane tanks at Bellamar, as well as all residents that
Excuse me, you cannot shut out. Cannot shut out.
there are also numerous residents that have the propane tanks throughout. Yes, there is a safety concern, but they are following all federal and state guidelines. And I think the need far outweighs the safety concern. When we have a natural disaster and they can only help to fill right now, if they're fully stocked, 125 bottles of propane. This will not even double that. They'll get 250 maybe. But that's going to help out a lot more residents. And I think that is definitely the reason why I am for this. I see the safety concern as very minimal. My home is, like I said, less than 1,000 feet away. So if I had a safety concern, I would definitely be voting against it, because if something happens, God forbid, it's going to adversely affect my residents as well.
Thank you.
Mayor, may I address one point?
Sure.
Thank you, sir. You hit it on the head when you said at the last hearing, out of the 90 residents, you had 60 people come against this. Look where we are today. We've worked hard. You're never going to get 100% of the people. You have 2 people out of 90 that came. We had 20 people signed on a list that we spoke to individually about every single facet. We met with the fire department. We moved it away from the wall to allow to meet the minimum requirements to keep it away from the building, because we had to meet 2 criteria. We had to be a certain number of feet away from the wall and the property, and we needed to be a certain number of feet away from the building. So I believe you hit it on the head when you addressed accurately the prior hearing of the number of people that showed. If they were greatly opposed after the meeting, this hall would be filled again. So I think, and I wish you would really consider that, because the safety concern has been addressed. Guidelines have been here. We have the best professionals with us that are doing the installation. So I just want to make sure you know, and I've been working at the city for many years on many different projects, and you know our integrity is there. So please consider that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Preston, the Commissioner Hudak.
Thank you, Mayor. As you accurately stated, Mayor, I was on the opposite side of this the last time we talked about this, but there have been changes. The site plan has changed, and also a dose of reality. I think it was Hurricane Andrew. I think it was Andrew, that where we were out of power for over 3 weeks. Propane is how I survived. Imagine if I didn't have that resource. Imagine the many people in Deerfield that if that resource was not available, what then do they do? And I can tell you, people start taking chances. They start doing things that they shouldn't do, creating a hazard simply out of the fact that the crisis that they're in. I think these situations sometimes, we have the luxury of debating it when things are good. But if we all were in the middle of a hurricane with no power, I don't think anybody in this room would agree that I don't want the resource of propane. So we can debate it in this forum simply because it's easy to do. But I think that not having it can create a crisis, or at least potentially a dangerous environment, because now people are going to try to makeshift grills and all kinds of things in actual fire simply out of necessity. So wherein the safety concerns are immediate. We have to think of the people that live in close proximity. And then you have to weigh it. Does one outweigh the other? In my mind, having the resource available actually decreases the ability for something negative to happen. And that's what I'm looking at right now. And you're 100% right, Mayor. You cannot look beyond the safety aspect. You can't do it. You can't do it. But you also have to look at, you know, what one side is offering versus the other. And if there's any measure of compromise that can take place, then that's what should happen. And you should always tilt it in the balance of service. And that means more people will have the availability to be able to survive in the midst of a crisis, because simply that would be available.
Thank you. Commissioner Hudak and then Vice Mayor Drosky.
I'm going to make a motion so you can let Vice Mayor go.
Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Let me get the variance aspect out of the way first. The variance is to do the outside filling. So to me, that requirement is very easily met because you can't do the filling inside. So you have to do the filling outside. So the variance request to do the outside filling of the tanks makes perfect sense. It's the only sense actually for this. So the variance request to me, and I'm the one that pushes the variances the hardest up here, is actually very easy for me. But this comes down to a safety issue. This is what the commission is all about, is protecting public safety. We as municipal officials, protecting the public safety is one of our #1 goals as we sit up here. The fact that only 2 of 90 residents are here tonight is not particularly persuasive to me, because it's our job to protect the 88 that aren't here if there is a public safety matter. The fact that the Midas next door uses a substance that is more flammable also is not persuasive to me, because we're talking about this property and the propane. Now, having said that, I did speak to a representative from ACE today, and we went through the project very carefully. And in particular was the safety aspect. And we talked about tonight, and it was briefly in the presentation, about meeting the state and federal requirements. So I did go through and do my own research today regarding propane. And it is not as scary as people would think. It's a scary word, perhaps. But the incidences with propane just don't happen that frequently on commercial establishments. And they really don't even happen that frequently in residential establishments either. And people do crazy things with their propane tanks. They leave them in their hot garages. They leave them outside in the sun. They leave them in the corner of their patios, and all kinds of places. And there's no incidents to report. So you can take a hammer to those tanks, which I'm not suggesting you do. But those are also, they're built to prevent those kinds of safety to aspects. So I don't see the public harm with propane, given the empirical data that is out there. I mean, I certainly feel for the residents of the condominium next door, and I would have the same concerns. But when you do the research, the dangerousness of propane just isn't there. You have a much more likelihood at your own residence than you would at a commercial establishment of doing that. So the fact that it's the only propane tank distributor in the city, it pushes the needle a little bit for me, but it doesn't, sway me entirely. In the event of a hurricane, yes, it would be nice for our residents to have access to propane as the only establishment in the city that would dispense this way. For example, if you take your, right now, if you go to a Home Depot or a Lowe's, you drop off your tank and you pick up a new tank with you. And this would be the only location in the city where you take your own tank and it gets filled up and you take that same tank home. Otherwise, it would be just the same scenario as every other establishment where you drop off a tank and pick up a new tank. So the fact that you can bring your own tank back, there is some benefit to that. But I don't see the public safety being compromised in this particular situation.
Thank you. Commissioner Pardes, then Commissioner Hudak.
Listening to a scenario, what would people do if there were a hurricane? Let's go step one. The last major hurricane we had, stores were closed. What makes you think Ace Hardware employees could even get there? Two, we had wires, live wires down in the streets. You were told, do not drive. There were trees all over the place. The last hurricane we had a problem getting the roads cleared and everything else because the company we had a contract with didn't fulfill it right away. So the fact that people might have difficulty without exchanging or getting refills. I lived on an alcohol stove and the canned heat. I can't think of the name right now. Sterno. And I cooked with it for a long time, a whole week. Okay. And we had no electricity. People make preparation when there's a hurricane coming. And to say, well, what are they going to do? They're going to do crazy things because they can't get their tank refilled. I'm sorry. I'm more concerned with the safety of the residents that live in that area and anywhere else. I call the fire department quite regularly where I live in Century Village because people don't store their tanks properly. We have an ordinance that it has to be 20 feet from a building. And it has to be secured, like chained with a stake in the ground, so it doesn't become an exploding missile. I am very concerned about propane tanks in a tragedy. They could do more destruction than if we were bombed. I'm not convinced that having a place to fill tanks when they can be exchanged empty for full is not imperative. I really just don't see the absolute need to endanger the people that live around there. So I'm not convinced that this is a good idea.
Thank you. Commissioner Hudak?
With regards to safety, right now you have 125 individual tanks facing Federal Highway, facing parking spaces. So if one of our residents hits the gas as opposed to the brake and hits that store, there's a much larger potential for damage from 125 propane tanks than from one tank in the back of the store. So I think that moving those 25 tanks out of there so that they're not on Federal Highway, so they're not in the front of the store next to parking spaces, actually reduces the chances of a potential situation as opposed to increases it. And therefore, I am going to make a motion to have this approved.
Second.
Motion from Commissioner Hudak, second by Commissioner Preston. We have roll call, please.
Commissioner Hudak?
Yes.
Commissioner Parnas?
No.
Commissioner Preston?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Drosky?
Yes.
Mayor Gans?
Yes.
You got it passed.
We are now at public comment portion of tonight's meeting. Persons addressing the commission shall state his or her name and address and may speak for 3 minutes unless extended for 1 additional minute by the mayor. This is the time for public comment on items that are not on tonight's agenda. The time for public comment on items that are on tonight's agenda is after the title for the item is read into the record and the public comment period for such item is open. No comment shall be made related to the personal life or personal qualities of any person, and no language which would offend persons of ordinary sensibilities shall be permitted.
Hi, my name is Denise Santoro. I started a nonprofit 2008 in Hemingway, South Carolina. Oh, sorry about that. 263 South Pine Street, Johnsonville, South Carolina. I'm here now with America Bless Children. I'm the CEO. of August of this year, license, bringing the nonprofit, organization here. Did you get a chance to get the page? You didn't get it? Okay, I called it Roundup because we got so many problems, from all ages that we're challenging. I hope I have enough time. I don't know if you remember, I remember when I was younger, that my uncle or any man, if you would pull up to them, they would always check your tires and check if they had air in it. They would pull up the hood of your car and check if you had oil and, if you had water. And that was so cool. And God, the men don't do that anymore. And so it's just that, and then the young, I hate to say black boys, but more so the black men that I see wearing their pants down so low. And they have a lot of young men in their family they're raising, and it's just not sending a good, an example. And so, and our young ladies with the lashes in the hair, I'm not talking about them. I'm not putting them down. I'm just saying that it is what it is. And what our new, I feel like with my age, I'm 64. If we don't do something, I feel like I have to fight for the values of life, because when I'm gone, these values, they're going to be gone. And so I have the America Best Children. I gave her the page. We're on all social media platform. We work with everyone from ages 0 all the way to 100 plus, because there's so many needs in the community with illiteracy, gun violence. We've sponsored out with Gun World, the 10th and I think it's State Road 7. Kim, she's one of our sponsors. She's like so involved with young violence, gun violence. We got programs for that. We got illiteracy. We get involved with all the in the community, all the schools, all the park and recreations, the health department. We have all kinds of programs. Oh, okay. So it's just a dying need that I'm asking. I'm introducing my organization. Oh, it's not mine. I'm the CEO of, I founded it 2008. And it's just that I had America Bless Children. I gave her the Instagram page. I was hoping that we could skim along and see some of the programs. That's it. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Daniel Shanetsky, 34 Keswick B, District 3, Deerfield Beach. I went on the tour this Saturday for the Pioneer Grove Park and around the downtown area. It was excellent. Really learned a lot, really enjoyed it. On the tour, I heard a gentleman say that middle school will be touring City Hall, I think tomorrow, which brought me to the Deerfield Beach Ordinance, Section 2-181, which created the Deerfield Beach Youth Council. Now, I remember that I was here was on May of 2023. And the Deerfield Beach Youth Council, it's a group of young people who advise the Deerfield Beach City Commission on issues affecting the community. These young Deerfield Beach residents, most of them high school students, they meet regularly to discuss issues on how to improve the city. And it gives young people voices a chance to be heard and considered when making decisions that affect the community. I think it's a great legacy for this city commission that they passed this ordinance. It's going to hopefully grow a lot of future leaders of Deerfield Beach. It's going to ignite and stoke the passion of our Deerfield Beach youth towards learning how our local government works. I just want to know what the status is of the Deerfield Beach Youth Council. I think it's excellent, and I'm looking forward. Again, the ordinance was made in May of 2023. I just wanted to follow up and know what's the status of it.
I need IT.
My name is Joe Hines. 559 Northwest 47th Terrace here in Deerfield. Commissioner, Mayor, a couple thoughts I'd like to share with you. On August 5th, manager resigned. On December the 17th, 134 days after that resignation, we had a presentation by a headhunter. And then on January the 2nd, you had a special meeting to discuss selection of city manager, which is 150 days since the manager resigned. You know, I don't know why all the delays and why it's taking so long, and all of a sudden it seems to be a big rush, but I would think that, you know, if I was selling my house and new owners are moving in on March the 11th, I believe it is, I don't think I'd be wanting to paint the house or put on a new room or something. I think I'd let new owners take care of it. And I urge this commission to put this decision off, because the new commission needs to make this decision, because they're the ones that are going to have to live with that decision for the next 4 years. That's one thing. The second thing, you know, you see all these power poles going up by Florida Power and Light around town and everything, and you know they're setting all these new poles in because they know what's going to come down in a few years about this new construction on 10th Street. The impact on Deerfield, who knows what it is? I've never heard anybody really say, but I think it's going to be like a tidal wave of traffic on certain roads. And of course, certain times we do already have a tidal wave of traffic, and that's on Hillsborough Boulevard. I've been on Hillsborough Boulevard on several occasions, and traffic was backed up from the railroad tracks all the way to Power Line Road. It's common to see traffic backed up to Century Village at any time that I'm down there. I see it a lot. I got a suggestion. You guys can do with it as you please, maybe. But you know, the Florida statute 335-141 states that any city municipality can enforce an ordinance which prohibits the train parking of blocking of cars and engines over railroad tracks. You can make an ordinance that stops the train from doing that. And so these long-term blockages, I'll give it to you after copy of it, Mayor. These long-term blockages, if you stopped all that, at least you'd solve this, you know, 1.5 miles to Power Line Road, or 3/8 of a mile to Century Village or whatever, because obviously they're blocking they're parking the cars and the gates are staying down too long. Now, I don't know if the cars are there or not. I know the gates are staying down too long. But if you look at, if you go on the property appraiser's website and you see the size of that easement on the south side of Hillsborough Boulevard along the railroad tracks, it goes down there way past the city's utility yard on the west. Can I have one more minute, please? And so, you know, they have room to pull those trains down and get them out of the way and get those gates up. You know, these trains go by here by the city hall here, and it's like having a traffic light. It's no more than like having a traffic light. You don't see traffic backed up for 1.5 miles here because of this railroad crossings here on 10th Street and here right here on Hillsborough Boulevard here in downtown. It's all out west. And when they start doing this 10th Street, it's going to get even worse. And that's coming up in a couple of years, and maybe you could head some of this off and maybe thinking about long-term on how you could solve problems with traffic that's going to be impacted by the 10th Street I-95 interchange that's going to be built. It's going to be horrendous. Thank you very much.
Evening, Karen Shelley, 190 Durham D, candidate for District 3 City Commission. I'd like to get a report on the front gate at Century Village. Since at least 2019, when I was there, we've heard about the restoration, the renovation, the replacement of the front gate at Century Village on Hillsborough Boulevard. All these fits and starts. Recently, we heard again, now it's going to happen again. Sometimes the commissioner will post on Facebook, it's going to happen in a day, and then it doesn't. And again, the city, this is all secondhand knowledge. The city points at the Century Village people for permitting errors, or the Century Village points to the city points to Century Village. And I know, you know, we've tried to get the answer. If somebody can give us the answer, the front gate, and you talk about backups of traffic, this is one way to address that, is get that front gate replaced. So I hope somebody will look into it for us, because we do need a voice to get that done. Thank you.
Dan Hers, 330 Southeast 19th Avenue, candidate for mayor. It really gets tiring listening to the District 1 commissioner trying to deflect blame away from himself and the other commissioners for the financial repercussions to small business owners caused by the city shutting down the pier and adjacent parking lot. The District 1 commissioner said on January 2nd the following: "This dais was never presented with information on how the closure of the pier would affect our businesses. I blame the city manager." I guess he is referring to the Tom Brady of city managers, David Santucci. I'm not sure where the District 1 manager went to school, but you didn't have to graduate from the Wharton School of Business to know that if you close down a pier that attracted approximately 400,000 people in 2023, it may have an effect on local small businesses. But tonight, I'm not going to waste all my 3 minutes bashing the commission when it would be in everyone's best interest to come up with a solution. After all, these small businesses are going through some of the same problems they went through during COVID. Only now there is no federal money to help them. But maybe there is a way to make money available from the city of Deerfield Beach or the CRA to rescue these drowning businesses surrounding the S-curve. All these businesses receive almost all of their sales by credit card. There are detailed software systems like Toast that can identify to the penny the drop in sales for these businesses since the pier was shut down on June 3rd. I propose setting up working capital loans for these businesses equal to 2/3 of their drop in sales from July 1, 24 to December 31, 24, compared to the same period from July 1, 23 to December 31, 23. For example, if Ocean's 2, 3, 4 sales dropped by 300,000 during the comparison period mentioned above, they would be eligible for a 200,000 working capital loan. The loans would have to be personally guaranteed by the small business owner and would have an interest rate equal to whatever the city is receiving from the bank on their idle cash balances. Repayment of principal could begin as soon as the pier reopens and could be paid back over 24 equal monthly principal payments. I would be happy to offer my assistance free of charge to the interim city manager in designing all the details of the Small Business Loan Assistance Program. Instead of wasting everyone's time on the blame game, Mr. District 1 Commissioner, why don't we all work to try to find a solution to the problem that the city caused instead?
Anyone else in the public? Anyone online? Okay, and we're going to close it to the public. City Manager, can you respond about the Youth Council?
I'm aware the Youth Council was established by the commission in 2023, but appointments have not been made, and I'll follow up with Parks and Rec to see what their status is on developing that program. But I have not seen that activated in the last 2 years or 3 years at all.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Parnas, did you want to respond regarding the situation?
Yes, let's talk about the gate. In January of last year, not this year, the new construction company for the guardhouse canceled their permit. In the next 6 months, they let it expire. Had to be reapplied. It took 11 months to get him in front of the Community Appearance Board, a necessity to get a permit. Now, I spoke to the owner of the company who's going to be building on Sunday. He happens to be in Atlanta. All the permits have been issued now. Finally, Master Management went to each appropriate department as necessary to get these kind of permits, and they were issued. Why they didn't start construction? All I can say is the head of that corporation, I spoke to him Sunday, was still in Atlanta. Want to blame the city for what? The fact that they canceled the permit or waited till more than 6 months where a permit is only good for 6 months? Or they never went in front of the Community Appearance Board to get approval? Whose fault is that? Every time I ask them, when are you going to do this? Oh, we're waiting for the architect. Oh, we're waiting for the new engineer. Okay. City can't issue permits on, well, next week we'll submit the papers. No, that's not how things work. We go from A to B to C, and when they're done, permits are issued. If you refuse to do that, you can wait in line before it'll happen. It won't. So they can try to blame the city for their, how can I put it, malfeasance in getting it done. Yet when it came to the other two guardhouses, there were no problems. 1, 2, 3, and they went up. And the same company that's now doing our main guardhouse did them. I expect work to start any day now because the permits have been issued. And that rests with master management. When I tried to reach Val, the head of master management in terms of he's the director, not the head of master man, not the president, but the director, he was out. He hasn't returned my calls since. If he does, maybe I'll get more of an answer from him. But as far as I know from the construction company, they're ready to start building. This should have been done last summer before the snowbirds came. But again, if an entity decides, I don't need the city to do this, that, or the other thing, I'll do it my way. Well, my way doesn't work. There are rules and there are protocols and there's plans to be submitted and get approved. And just because they submitted plans that weren't approved for the most part, at least twice, they can't get a permit. But blame the city for that, because we wouldn't accept shoddy work or work not up to the standards that we require. I applaud departments for scrutinizing a project of this size to make sure that it's safe, make sure that the construction won't collapse or people get hurt or fire started because of poor electrical. All of that has to get checked out. Then we issue permits. So blame away. It's falling on deaf ears.
Thank you. The closure of the pier is simply due because of the hurricane damage that was done. It has to be closed because it's got to be repaired. There's no other way to do it. And I think if we were to have the construction site starting in Pioneer Park over here and then traveled all the way over to the pier to do some of the work, I think we would have some other complaints as well. Certainly this disrupts the synergy that's expected with the closure of the pier. It is disappointing and frustrating, without a doubt, but there's no other way to do it except to close it if you're going to repair it. I don't think our bond rating companies, and I don't think any agencies, I don't know how they would feel about a city becoming a building and loan. I don't think that's something that I've ever seen done. Certainly, if that's something we can explore, that would be interesting, but I have a strong feeling that the answer would be no, that you wouldn't be able to do a program like that when you get into defaults and all the other issues that could occur, especially in the restaurant industry. And as I pointed out before, I went down the S curve and had dinner. One place had a 45-minute wait, the other one was empty. I think that is it says something about the two different businesses. But it is unfortunate, and hopefully we can continue to move forward and get this pier fixed. If you look at things like Lauderdale by the Sea and the circumstances they have with that, at least we're in a better situation than they are there.
Okay, you are now on the consent agenda. Items 4 through 11 are currently on consent.
Okay, are there any polls from the commission?
No.
Okay. is there-
I'm gonna, I think some people came to speak on number 4.
Well, I'll ask, do you want to pull anything? Excuse me. Ma'am, thank you. Do you have a poll?
I was gonna pull only for a discussion item.
What do you want to pull? Which
4.
one?
No.
4. Okay, 4. Sorry. I didn't catch that part. So we're pulling 4. Is there anyone from the public that care to kind of comment on any item? Okay. All right, we're going to open it to the public then. Just let us know which item you're going to be discussing.
Good afternoon. Sandra Jackson, 386 Southwest 35th Avenue, Deerfield. I just want to thank Mr. Preston for bringing the Black Heritage Board into existence. I want to thank everybody for being able to serve. I just have some concern. I'm not upset because one thing, I don't get paid for the job, okay? But when you start doing stuff because of political reason, I think is wrong. I'm not gonna call any names. Me and you was friends, and you assume that I was helping someone. Like I gave you the opportunity, open doors where I meet with people. We make decisions who we gonna support in the election. You never respond back, okay? I think when you do stuff, don't do stuff because you think somebody is not gonna support you. Even if we don't support you, that's not a reason to do stuff. I'm still gonna be here in this community, helping out. I always help people out in this community. I don't care what district you are. I don't care what race you are. Right now, I'm helping someone who's not my race right now. I get calls just like I'm a commissioner, like I'm a mayor. And things that you guys do, I know there was a comment made saying that we have to get people who represent us in the city. If you guys all think you guys represent us up there or represent the city, I don't think so. Look at what's going on with Dixie Highway right now, where we could have had beautiful apartments there and we got big FPNL trucks there now. So some decision you make is not good for our city or for the people. So I just want to come up here. Thank you guys for serving. Let you know that was not a pay. It was my time. I had bylaws I had to stand by. Now I can do a lot more with my time and help more in the community. I will still be serving this community and helping out in this community. And I just want to say thank you for allowing me to be able to serve.
Thank you.
Mayor, just a point of clarification. If I have more than one consent agenda item.
Just let us know which item you're speaking on.
Okay, this first one is item number 4. Dan Hers, 330 Southeast 19th Avenue. When looking at Suzanne Folk's application to be on the African American Heritage Board, I was impressed to see she is an assistant dean at FAU's College of Nursing and has a bachelor's degree and a master's degree. And looking even closer at her application, I did not see anywhere where she states who she supports in the upcoming mayor's race. That is an important criteria for the District 4 Commissioner in determining whether one is allowed to serve on the African American Heritage Board. Your predecessor, Ms. Folks, was not renewed onto the African American Heritage Board because it was assumed she was supporting me in the upcoming mayoral race. The District 4 Commissioner chose politics over what is best for the city of Deerfield Beach. The other members of the African American Heritage Board were in shock when they were informed at the December 16th African American Heritage Board meeting by the Parks and Rec Director that Ms. Jackson had been removed from the committee. From the official minutes of that meeting, I read to you the following. Ms. Annette Mitchell said she is dissatisfied and disappointed that Ms. Jackson is no longer on the board. The chair of the African American Heritage Board, Ms. Strobridge, told me after the meeting that no one from the city contacted her about the change before the meeting and that she did not know how she would run this committee in the future without Ms. Jackson's valuable input. I know the District 4 Commissioner is allowed to put whoever he wants as his appointment to the African American Heritage Board, whether it's in the best interest of the Black community or not. But in the future, Ms. Folks, make sure you keep supporting Todd if you want to stay on the African American Heritage Board. Just go to the next item.
Yes.
Item number 8. My question is, when hurricane season comes around again and the citizens want sandbags, what will the city tell them now that we are removing all of our sand? Item number 9. Whereas, it says here in the resolution, whereas the City of Deerfield Beach's Transportation Division is the recipient or subrecipient of federal transportation administration funding pursuant to 49 USC Chapter 53. So in the name of transparency, how can you fail to put in the backup to the citizens how much money the City of Deerfield Beach's Transportation Division received from the FTA pursuant to 49 USC Chapter 53? And later in the resolution, it states, whereas community service staff recently determined that despite the city operating a transit management system since 2018, the required plan has not been developed. So what safeguards has the interim city manager put in place to assure the citizens that required plans like this transit asset management plan do not fall through the cracks or tracks in this case, resulting in the loss of valuable federal dollars? And finally, number 10, maybe the interim city manager can answer this question. Now that this $426,482.05 is being reapportioned to sidewalk improvements, was there already money set aside in the fiscal 25 budget for sidewalk improvements? And if so, is that money now freed up to be spent on other items in fiscal 25? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Just let us know which item and your name and address for the record.
Item 4, Diane Chisholm, 375 Northwest 7th Court, Deerfield Beach. I am here today just to have a few things to say based upon a phone call that I received from some of my team members. As you all know, one of the reasons why we were nominated or selected to be on any board is, I hope, would be because of our service to our community. We all have a responsibility to our community, and I take that responsibility very, very seriously. Since I've raised my kids in the city of Deerfield Beach, I've always been extremely active in this community. And I believe that one of the reasons Commissioner Preston chose me or asked me to be a part of the African American Board was because of my service to my community, not because of any political reasons, not because of anything else, but because the love I have for the work that I do in the community that I live. I just wanted to run by just a couple of things to remind the commission that's in my background. Before my 2 knee surgeries within the last 3 years, I was an active member working building homes for the Habitat community. I worked tireless walks for the Cancer Walk in Fort Lauderdale. I worked the last 6 years, last 4 years, volunteering with the Dawn Run. I have spent numerous hours working the backpacks for the community at Stanley Terrace and the other neighboring areas in Deerfield Beach. I have shopped with the sheriffs of Broward County for the last 5 years. Last year, I was not, last 2 years, I was not able to do so, but that was just a fun event. I worked a book bag events with our former sheriff, our former deputy Morrison for many years. Alzheimer's walks in Fort Lauderdale. Just to name a few, I was the Deerfield Beach Middle School president for many years when my children were in school. Deerfield Beach High School Booster Club for 4 years. I worked with the Deerfield Beach housing community.
Ms. Chisholm?
Yes.
I appreciate you sharing all the things that you've done in the community, but this is about this particular person's
Exactly.
appointment.
And I'm going to get there, Mayor. Thank you
Thank
so much. And just to name a few, I just wanted to name some of those things that I do because of my love for the community and what we do. And the appointments I do with Ms. Jackson agree. I didn't know that, can I have just one more minute?
Yes.
I didn't know that I had not been appointed back to the housing board, but I called phone prior to a meeting because I didn't want to break any rules and be sitting there on the board not knowing if had I been appointed. I do think the city can do a better job in notifying individuals who may have been on the board. I absolutely loved my job working with the housing community, but you know what? Saying all of these things that I have been used to doing in the community, my volunteer services won't stop. But I do want to thank all of you for the opportunity to serve my community on those boards. But quite frankly, I can do more now because I'm not bound by all of the rules. So I have still been working with the groups, and anything that I can do in the city as a volunteer, I will continue to do so. Don't need a board to do that, but I do thank you all for your service. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'm going to close it to the public then. We had item number, Vice Mayor Drosky, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to respond on number 4, please. My decision to replace Ms. Jackson on the African American Heritage Boards has nothing to do with politics. And the fact that you're bringing people here tonight to say that it is,
Excuse me.
it's
Please don't
very,
call out.
it's very obvious. It's extremely obvious. And Ms. Jackson, I did not remove you because of politics. And you and I had a conversation before regarding, and I'm going to be very diplomatic because I'm going to respect you tonight, but we had a conversation about an incident that occurred in one of our city parks where you were cussing out a vendor while wearing your city shirt. And that is just not appropriate. And that's why when you represent me, you represent the community. And I can't have that. So it's nothing against politics. It's against who's representing me out there in the community. And we had this discussion by phone. Now, if you reach out to me afterward by text, email, or smoke signal or phone, I didn't get that, but I will call you tomorrow and we will discuss this further. But that is the reason for this.
Excuse me, Ms. Jackson, please. Ma'am, thank you.
That's all, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Preston, you pulled item number 4. You want to talk about item number 4?
No.
Okay.
The people have responded and the Vice Mayor responded, and I think that's appropriate.
Okay. Thank you. And I think there's a difference between removing someone and not reappointing them. I think there's a big difference between the two. There were questions. The sand removal.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, the sand there is not appropriate to put in sandbags. That's why it has to be removed by a vendor. We can't use that for sandbag filling.
Is it too sandy?
It's not too sandy. It's full of other debris and other items that you can't use for that. It's a danger actually if you were to do that.
Okay. And the city transportation dollar amount?
So the city transport, one of the accountability measures that we have in place now is what resulted in us discovering that we needed to have that transit plan in place. And that's why it is on your agenda tonight.
Okay. Thank you. And regarding sidewalks, CBGB?
So the funding that was allocated we didn't need for the particular programs that were mentioned and was moved towards sidewalks. We are recognizing that there are a lot of places that we have children walking to school, we have people walking in their neighborhoods, and it is a safety issue in many places, and we want to use that funding that is available for that purpose to expand what we already have. It doesn't displace any funding that we've already had set aside for that same purpose.
Perfect. Thank you, Commissioner Parnas and Mr.
Yeah.
Salas. I see you jumping up, but I don't know if we have a question for you yet.
Does that include the sidewalk for Crystal Lake Drive, or is that a separate issue?
Crystal Lake is, no.
I hear that $3.5 million was awarded to replace, to build a sidewalk both sides of Crystal Lake Drive and 45th Avenue. And that work should start next year. Is this included in this money?
That's a separate project, Commissioner.
Separate? Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
Jonathan Salas, Director of Community Services. So with that substantial amendment, this substantial amendment was done already and completed. Unfortunately, HUD came back and they decided that they wanted to change the year that the amendment was done in. So we're just doing this for administrative purposes to make sure it's documented accordingly. And those funds are the CDBG CV funds that were allocated towards our rental assistance and mortgage assistance program, which we all know we're no longer in a pandemic. So utilizing those funds have become very challenging with getting qualified applicants. So it's kind of you use it or you lose it. So we had to reallocate it to something that HUD would allow us to. And a sidewalk project was something they agreed to because that is something where residents can get out and walk the community and create safe paths. So those funds are being utilized currently within District 2. We identified missing sidewalk segments throughout the entire district, which District 2 would qualify under the HUD census tracts as low to moderate income. So we must include those sidewalk segments in those areas that are low to moderate income. So you'll see those sidewalks going in all around this area, around City Hall, around the Center for Active Aging and so forth.
Thank you. And to your point, and I think there's a lot of novices out there that think that when we have a pool of money, it can be used anywhere we want, any place. That's not necessarily the case, and certainly not with this money. There are certain requirements that we have on that funding.
Absolutely. Those funds were for rental and mortgage assistance, and we had to reallocate it, and the sidewalk project was a project that HUD approved for us.
So I couldn't just take that money and put it towards anything we wanted within the city?
No.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Motion to approve all consent items.
Second.
Motion from Commissioner Hudak, seconded by Commissioner Preston. We have roll call, please.
Commissioner Hudak?
Yes.
Commissioner Parnas?
Yes.
Commissioner Preston?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Drosky?
Yes.
Mayor Gantz?
Yes,
I believe number 4 was pulled, correct? Number 4, you pulled it.
it was pulled and discussed.
Okay.
Motion to approve item 4.
Okay, let me read the title first. A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Deerfield Beach, Florida, approving Suzanne Folks as a regular member to the African American Heritage Committee and providing for an effective date.
Well, you
Motion.
made the motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you.
Okay, we are now on item 12, update regarding the rerouting of the residential garbage collection routes.
Good evening, Chad Gressick, Director of Sustainable Management. Happy New Year, everyone. I have a brief presentation, which I believe you've seen already. So I'll go through it pretty quickly, and then obviously be here to answer any questions you might have. So our residential reroute, this is just essentially an efficiency measure. We're going to be adjusting routes to improve collection efficiency, reduce costs, enhance customer service. This was last done approximately 10 years ago, so it's certainly overdue. Our outreach plan, we've done this before. We've done it through our bulk reroute, so it's been extremely successful. Next slide. So the current schedule, you can see the green is and reddish are Monday, Thursday. So those are, obviously separate pieces of town. So what we're going to do is we're going to consolidate that. Next slide. And you can see significantly more efficient. We use I-95 as the divider, and it's much cleaner. Next slide. Outreach plan. Assuming we're given the approval tonight, we will start the outreach ASAP, and then do the new routes March 1st. Be happy to answer any questions.
Commissioner Hudak?
Can you go to the slide for the new routes? And maybe I didn't see it or I can't see it. What days are which route?
Yes, so the pinkish will be Monday, Thursday.
Okay.
And
that's
bulk
what
will
it
be
is then?
when?
That's correct. That's where a portion of it is now. The bulk schedule, I believe, is the same
Okay.
dates.
Okay.
And then the greenish would be a Tuesday, Friday collection.
Okay.
And again, you can see, obviously we're not spread across town. There's consistency, there's efficiency here. All our trucks will be in the same general area. So obviously, again, that's going to improve efficiency, reduce customer complaints, reduce, delays. And again, we've done this with our bulk reroute and it was extremely successful. So, we certainly expect the same results for this.
I got no problem with it.
Great.
Vice Mayor Drosky?
Sure. Mr. Gressick, when you say outreach, what specifically, how are you outreaching just to ensure that those residents in the affected areas are made aware?
Yes, so we're anticipating approximately 7,500 homes to be impacted by this reroute. So there will be direct messaging through the water bill where possible. Some of these residents are on the Broward County billing. We're also going to do temporary signage in those areas, which will show the change in collection days. Press releases, website, the Deerfield Beach Waste Watch app, which will actually alert you to the changes if you're signed up. And if you're not signed up, please do so. There's information on the website on how to do that. And then, of course, during this period, we're going to have relaxed code enforcement because, we want to make sure that individuals, understand and accept the change, and we're not going to penalize them for, adjusting to that.
Thank you. I know we've talked to some residents, we've gotten some feedback, and they seem to be supportive of this.
Great. Thank you.
Got it?
We are now at comments by administration and legal. No comments from legal tonight.
No comments.
We are now at comments by mayor and city commission.
We'll start with District 1.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of quick questions. Last time I spoke with the city manager, and I didn't give you a heads up, so I apologize. You were looking into some type of maybe federal funds to help some of our businesses that were having some challenges due to the closure of the pier. And I was just curious if you were able to find any solutions to that.
So we have been working with both federal and state level partners to try and come up with some of those sources for funding to help struggling businesses. The difficulty that we have is that the damage to our pier was due to, I believe it was Hurricane Nicole, but that hit north of us and out of our area far enough that we weren't in a declared area. So we're still having some of our folks look at the federal level, but initially they don't think that that's going to be a strong argument. If it had been declared in our area, if there was additional damage in Broward County, it would have been a lot easier, and we would have been at the front of the line with our businesses down there on the S-curve. We're not exhausting that yet. We're still pursuing it to the degree that we can, and also at the state level, we are also looking through Florida League of Cities. And of course, economic development has been looking through Small Business Association, but Small Business Association is a different kind of model that many of the businesses have tried to utilize down there, but that has not been successful for the ones that have reached out to economic development. So we're looking at hopefully between the state and the Florida League of Cities, and then some of the other additional efforts to try and promote the beach area for those businesses specifically. to hopefully help them until we can get the pier back in order.
And we were looking to try to get the pier at least partially open for our centennial celebration. Any update on that?
They're right now working on the east side of the pier. So the difficulty with that is they are constantly going across the west side of the pier to get to that location. So right at this point, in these early months, no, it's not going to be accessible, but we are looking for ways to maybe modify their particular schedule to still stay on track to open when we're hoping to have the opening of the pier. But we would like to be able to at least get partial opening of the pier at the far western end. That's what we're working with the contractor to try and figure out.
Thank you. No more comments.
Thank you, District 2.
Thank you, Mayor. There's a couple of things that I'd like to talk about here. Last Friday, I took part of the Pioneer Grove walkthrough. I'd like to thank staff for that. I found it to be very beneficial, actually informative with the ideas. But what was really good about that, it gave the public a chance to engage and be a part of the process and give their ideas. One of the questions that I asked with the group that I was assigned with, how many of you are City of Deerfield Beach resident? And ironically, like in that group, which was about 12 to 15 people, there was a lot, about 4 or 5, I would say, that were not actually residents of Deerfield Beach, and found it to be pretty interesting. Next Monday is the MLK celebration, and the parade starts at 10. Please, come and be a part of that. Social incompatibility leads to even greater social complexities. And then ultimately there is some measure of conflict. And you would ask, to what am I referring? I'm going to tell you. Back in 1929, you had a situation not too far away from us. A school was called Braithwaite. It was so designed by law that only Black people could attend that school because they were not allowed to attend school with white people. And there were many people that contributed to the existence of that school. And then America changed its mind. It said that segregation is not right, and that the idea, the law of segregation should go away. So why is that important? It's important that I would challenge you. How do you make a negative like that? We can't go to school together. We can't learn together. We call ourselves Americans, but that's all. We have very little in common. And the biggest thing that separates us is melanin or pigmentation in our skin. How do you make something like that that's a negative? How do you turn that into a positive for everybody? And here's how you do it. Where that Black school used to exist, when the law changed, it went away. And what goes away with that is the history of really what it is and how it associates itself with the city. Because Braithwaite Elementary was a part of the history of Deerfield Beach. This commission made that a positive so that people can actually embrace the negativity of what happened, but at the same time, look at it and say, look at what we've done. Here's how it becomes a positive for everybody. And here is where we all should be proud, because where that school existed now is a historical site, has been recognized by the state as a historical marker. So I would like to thank the commission for its vote in recognizing the situation that we had, understanding the social situation that existed at the time, and to now make that, so that makes it like kind of like a museum. That will now be there forever. It's a historical marker. You should go by and look at it. I saw the plaque outside. It is very, very impressive. I'd like to also thank Mr. Salas and his staff, because after we renamed it, I asked him, was there a possibility for that to become a historical site? He checked into it. We met the qualifications, and Braithwaite Center for Active Aging, that site over there now is serving the entire city of Deerfield Beach, regardless of color, race, or religion. That's how you take a negative and turn it into a positive. It is the embracing of all of us. We have more in common than there are differences. Our inability to recognize the commonalities is what caused the confusion, the incompatibility, the complexities, and the conflict. It becomes our job to resolve each and every one of those. And then and when we attempt to even do that, then we can actually say we are Americans, and it means the same things to everybody. And it has the same worth to everybody. Other than that, it's just a word, just to say. It has to mean something. So I'm really proud of that. I was over there and I was talking to Mr. Salas, and I just was looking at that plaque, and it gives the history of Braithwaite. Your city commission had a part, all of you, some of people that think that sometimes there's a lot of negative. This city commission had a part in turning it around, and they did that, of which I just feel really happy about that. And like I said, I'd like to thank this commission. And don't forget MLK next week. That's it for me.
District 3?
We're in a political season with an election coming up in March. I'm not going to talk politics. You're all going to be getting mail all over the place. Some of it isn't exactly accurate. And if you see something strange, like I have, I would research it. Somebody, I'm not going to mention names, put out a piece that he's going to reduce property tax by 10%. I had a meeting with Marty Keir. Does everybody know that name? He's the property appraiser last night. And we sat and we talked about it. He said, it's technically possible. If he got rid of our millage rate altogether and bankrupted the city, we could reduce property taxes by 10%. I don't think that idea would float too well. We'd lose our bond rating that took years to make. We wouldn't be able to afford the best police, fire, and ambulance services. We'd have to cut out all our programs like Little League and football, because we wouldn't have any money. So there are a lot of ideas floating around. What I'm proud of the most in the 8 years I've served is watching our bond rating go from poor to AA. I'm proud of that, because that means we are financially sound. We are a big corporation, and it takes the understanding of business to run it. Our budget is $328 million. How many corporations do you know have that kind of money? And what do we do with it? We give you the best police and fire and ambulance service we can. We have some of the best water in the state, so much so that Publix buys all its water for seltzer and bottled water from Deerfield Beach. Half the state, Publix, uses our water, and we're looking to improve it right now. This city is on the rise. People talk, well, why'd you close the pier? Because it needed repair. 1 million people a year come to that beach. We don't want them falling off into the ocean. We want them safe. We want to make it as attractive as possible so even more people come. I floated the idea a while back ago Not that I dislike the restaurant at the pier, but why don't we go out on bid and see if anybody else is interested? Well, we got bidders, and this particular person that won the bid is going to put $3 million into that restaurant. And they're going to put a second story on it, have a bar up there as well as food. It's a nice improvement. Last month, we increased the police force on the beach on weekends. Why? So people feel safe and comfortable, so they'll come back. These are things I'm proud of, to be a part of. Getting medical marijuana, the first city in Broward County to have it, that we know people that are in bone cancer that were in such pain they couldn't walk. And they found that medical marijuana helped them. And that's what we're here for the citizens. Try to make your life as good as we can and keep the city responsibly sound, whether it's my district or your district. We're one city. Yes, we each represent different districts. But every time we vote for all of you, not for one district against another. That's all I have.
Thank you. District 4.
Thank you, Mayor. I only have one item tonight because it's that important. That is just to remind everybody about the January 28 meeting with the county commission regarding the expansion of the dump for Monarch Hill at the county in Fort Lauderdale. As of today, the meeting is still going forward, although we know the county has pulled the rug out from underneath this item before, so that's still a possibility. If it goes forward, the city will be providing transportation. So I ask that you stay in touch with any of the 5 of us up here. It'll be in my weekly newsletter with the details. Please email all 9 county commissioners or call their offices and let them know that you are against the expansion. But we're planning to show up again in numbers on January 28 at the county commission chambers in Fort Lauderdale to fight this expansion. And so I just remind everybody to please put on your calendar. There is no time certain set yet. At the last meeting, the county did set a time certain for this particular item, but it was only days before the meeting that they picked the time. So I suspect something similar would happen this time as well. But as soon as we get the information from the county, we will relay it and put it out there to our residents. So please, it's that important. Pay attention and attend if you can. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. That was actually number 1 on my list of items to talk about is Monarch Hill. I will be out of the country because of a previous engagement on the 28th. So I will not be able to attend. It's my understanding in talking to several county commissioners that it's not anticipated them moving again, but anything is possible with that commission. I want to make sure that staff is working with Coconut Creek and ourselves to make sure that our messaging is correct. I am going to leave a written statement that I'm going to ask our interim city manager to read on my behalf at the actual meeting. This is extremely important for us to attend, but I will say this. I have heard some rumors that because the public spoke at the previous reading of this, that the public may not be able to speak at this one. I don't know if that's accurate. I don't know if that's what they'll be looking to do, but just to give everyone a warning, I don't like to pull people out to a meeting that they're not going to be able to communicate at. But whether we're given the opportunity to speak or not, we need to be able to show up to let people know how we feel. And the best way to do it is directly contact your county commissioners, not just ours that represent us, Commissioner Bogan, but to contact all of them. Because if any of you attended that meeting, you heard some of the comments that were made. A lot of it didn't make sense. I thought it was really strange when Commissioner Geller actually asked Waste Management what the residents of Deerfield Beach felt about having an incinerator there, because one of the things they want to change is the ability to have that at that location. What they forget is that Waste Management had one there for years, and it was touted as one of the best of its type from an ecological standpoint. And it was highly touted by them, but the reason that they killed it is because they said that they didn't have enough debris going into that landfill, so there was really no need to do it. That was immediately after we decided not to renew with them on our agreement. So you see the games that are being played. We are against a behemoth that from a corporate standpoint is interested in doing what is best for them, not what's in the interest of the residents. So let's make sure that we turn out and do everything we can. I hope that this meeting is postponed so I get the opportunity to say what I want to say in person, but I've communicated with many of them regarding this, and I encourage all of you to do the same. There was a mention about polls and FP&L. Can we please talk to FP&L about Hillsborough? Because I know some of the lights, it appears to be out in the western portion of the city along Hillsborough. We could look into that, please. Other than that, I think that's all I have.
Can I say something before we close?
Sure. So close, so close.
Rodney, this is the city manager. The city will provide a bus. How about making up signs about the size of this? Saying, don't raise the dump. Or something similar. They frown upon outbursts of people speaking. But for years, we always held up signs and the cameras will pick it up. So anything that would help, and you can distribute them to those people on the bus, and when we get there, people that, let's say from Coconut Creek or from Century Village, because they're having a bus down, when it comes up, the cameras will pick it up. You're holding up a sign. Don't raise the dump. We've been lied to before by master management, and they're doing it again. Which they are,
Waste management.
waste management.
Yep. Thank you.
So it would help.
Thank you.
It's a fight we have to win. All right, we have a motion to close.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.